Good morning on this Monday. I'm Nikki Stanzione.
And I'm Kristen Van Dyke.
And this is New Mexico Style. And of course, I mean, how can you start the day without talking about the woman many of us growing up idolized, Whitney Houston, of course. Shocking news on Saturday. You know, and we saw kind of the demise of her. We saw a lot of things going on in her life that were steering her in a rough direction, and I know a lot of people had a lot to say about that through the last several years, but ultimately when we think about Whitney Houston, we think about what she's contributed to the entertainment community, and so much.
So young, 48. I mean, it's so young, it's so sad. It
is so sad, and we actually, I personally watched VH1 all weekend long. They were running videos from all of her videos from back in the day, and for me, I don't know about you guys, but it brought back so many happy memories in my life, just listening, you know, Saving All My Love for You and Greatest Love of All, and the Bodyguard soundtrack, and it just made me feel like a kid.
Oh my God. No, I mean, very unique voice. There will never be a voice like hers.
Never. And she just was a shining angel. I mean, when you look at the videos of her back then, you know, untainted, before all the drama in her life, she was just breathtakingly beautiful, and I know that the music world is mourning her death, and we're hearing from TMZ that Whitney Houston's family was actually told by LA County Coroner officials that the singer who was found in the bathtub did not actually die from drowning, but rather from what appears to be a combination of Xanax and other prescription drugs that were mixed in with alcohol.
Apparently, coroner's officials informed the family that there just wasn't enough water in Whitney's lungs to lead to the conclusion that she drowned, and sources say Whitney may well have even died before her head became submerged.
Yeah, and Whitney's mom, I mean, if you've been watching her career through the years, they're very, very close. Her mom really mentored her. She was a gospel singer back in the day, Sissy Houston. Of course, she has arranged to have the singer's body actually flown back to Atlanta. And the family was told that the coroner has no problem releasing the body because there was no evidence of foul play. And, you know, Whitney is a Jersey girl. She was born in Newark, New Jersey, very close to where I was born. And, you know, people back in New Jersey had a lot of pride in Whitney and a lot of hopes that her life would kind of turn around. After that Oprah interview a couple years ago, it seemed like she was getting back on track, and she was slated to possibly work with X Factor. She just did a movie. I mean, she was really starting to do better things.
You know, and I really feel for her daughter too. I mean, Bobbi Cristina has been hospitalized twice since her mother died, and they said she's suicidal.
Oh my gosh.
You know, there have been reports of that she's suicidal and just is handling this just really roughly. So you know,
at the end of the
prayers
day,
with her as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The family is where our prayers are, especially Bobbi Cristina. And I mean, I can only wonder what Bobby Brown is feeling right now too. I mean, he's got to be feeling, I don't know, maybe some guilt for kind of taking her down the wrong track initially. And who's to say what would have happened if they never got together?
Yeah, who's to say? But we'll have more on this story later in this half hour. But right now, let's go ahead and check in with KRQE News 13 anchor Elizabeth Alvarez for today's headlines. Good morning, Elizabeth.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Hey, good morning, Kristen and Nikki. Good morning to you at home. Top in your morning news headlines. A missing Texas girl has been found right here in New Mexico. We told you about the story last week after her case sparked an Amber Alert here. Well, police say her mom took her away, which put the girl in danger, they say. 11-year-old Jessica Smith is safe this morning. The girl and her mom were spotted outside Tres Piedras in northern New Mexico. The two were actually standing outside of their vehicle. Now, when a police officer approached them, they say the mother, Kimberly Smith, surrendered to authorities with no issues. Both were taken to the hospital where they are being treated and just basically being evaluated, but they say they're okay. The 11-year-old is in CYFD custody. Police say they were concerned for the girl after they say she was in the middle of a domestic violence incident between her mom and her dad. Now her mother faces charges of aggravated assault and endangering a child. She'll be brought back to Texas after her mother gets out of the hospital. A man shot at a Walmart parking lot in Albuquerque more than a week ago is in jail this morning. Police arrested Junior Beltran and Hector Rodriguez Jr. yesterday. At first, officers thought these guys were all the victims in this, but now both faced a list of charges for the fight that happened outside of a Walmart at Corals and Rio Bravo. That's where Beltran was actually shot in the stomach. Police say they are still looking for these two other men involved in the shooting. They took off to California, according to authorities. Officers say all four men are gang members. A stabbing suspect who had the UNM campus on high alert last week is in custody this morning. This is 32-year-old Jennifer Day in court yesterday during her arraignment. She was at the center of an apparent lovers' quarrel that turned violent on Friday. Police say she stabbed her boyfriend in the arm, dropped him off at the hospital, and then took off. Cops thought that she might have been hiding out on the UNM campus. They eventually tracked her down, though, at the 7-Eleven across the street. A judge has set her bond at $50,000. She is charged with aggravated battery on a household member and tampering with evidence. A private school in Santa Fe is going above and beyond to try to keep kids off of drugs. Listen to this. This is pretty interesting. St. Michael's High School recently notified parents that random hair samples would be taken from students starting next fall. Now, if a student tests positive for drugs, they'll be given another test 90 days later. If they test positive again, school officials say the kids will be subject to leaving the school. Parents, of course, have expressed mixed feelings about the drug testing going on there. And freezing temperatures like this morning are just not very comfortable, but get this, they can also be very dangerous. So what do you need to watch out for? David Romero has you covered.
Many of us look forward to winter and getting out to play in the snow, but prolonged exposure to the cold air could damage your heart.
The platelets get sticky inside the bloodstream, which increases your risk of having a heart attack. And that's a lot of times it's the combination of a high heart rate and sticky platelets that put people at higher risk in cold weather.
Breathing in the icy cold air can also pose consequences you may not even think of as it goes into your lungs.
It can cause spasm of the bronchioles in the airways, so that can make people feel subjectively short of breath. So when people are short of breath, it can put more strain on the heart and put people at risk for heart attack.
You want to try and warm that cold air before it goes into your lungs by breathing through a scarf or a face mask. In addition to those accessories, make sure you've got plenty on to keep you warm.
Wear multiple layers of clothing to make sure that you're not exposed to elements for a long period of time. If you don't do that, you're at high risk of hypothermia, which can also put strain on the body.
If and when we see the next snowstorm that leaves enough behind to shovel, make sure your ticker can handle the strain of cleaning it up.
That people are not, in the wintertime, are usually more sedentary. So when they get out in cold weather and start shoveling snow, heart rate goes up. They're not used to having that high of a heart rate, and that also puts them at risk of having an event such as a heart attack.
For You Ask, We Answer. David Romero, KRQE News 13.
And many of us do not get as much sun during the winter, so we ask doctors also if taking vitamin D supplements could help or hurt the heart, and they basically told us that it might help with energy, but it shouldn't have any effect on the heart, so that's a good thing. That wraps it up for your Monday morning headlines. Be sure to start your day with Matt Morrow, Kristen Van Dyke, and myself every weekday mornings on KRQE News 13 beginning at 4:30 a.m. Kristen, Nikki, I'm going to send it back to you. I know you guys are going to be talking more about the whole Whitney Houston's death. I personally am still shocked.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be for another couple of weeks before it actually says that she's gone.
I know. It's devastating. I mean, when you look at the images of her and you think she's really gone, it really is hard to believe. Thanks so much, Elizabeth. And one of the things you guys that you mentioned earlier on the news, but we didn't just hear just now, I thought was so interesting, that The Vow, which we talked about a lot last week, was #1 at the box office this weekend based on a real live New Mexico couple.
It is so cool. You know, and I bet I know why. It's Valentine's weekend. So all the women are like getting their hubbies. Like, hey, take me to the romantic movie. And of course, that's perfect for Valentine's Day.
It's
a love
perfect.
story. And it's just so cool that it represents people. It's a story about people from right here in New Mexico.
And a true story, a true love story that has a happy ending. So I love to hear that. Happy endings are so nice.
They are really nice. So definitely going to check that out pretty soon. But back to Whitney, of course, the big story of the day. Some limited information is being released on Whitney Houston's death now.
Yes, in fact, Fox correspondent Elizabeth Prawn has the latest.
Whitney Houston's daughter has been released from a Los Angeles hospital. 18-year-old Bobbi Cristina Brown was taken there Sunday morning after a source close to the family said she was treated and released for stress and anxiety.
How are you, Bobbi? What's the last thing Whitney said you, Bobbi?
Father is singer Bobby Brown. He asked for privacy and he got anything but when he arrived Sunday evening at the Los Angeles airport. Information on the cause of Houston's death is being put off. A Los Angeles coroner reports no visible signs of trauma or foul play, which is not suspected at this time.
We have concluded the autopsy on Miss Whitney Houston. It was concluded today. There will be no cause of death at this time because it is pending toxicology, and that could take up to 6 to 8 weeks. At this time, her cause of death is deferred, and we are finishing with all of our testing, and will be an ongoing investigation.
As to reports she drowned or overdosed, no determination will be made until all the tests are in.
I would just comment that she was found in the bathtub, and that was put out by Beverly Hills PD. I believe somebody removed her from the bathtub, and the paramedics did CPR on her.
Beverly Hills police say more details about Houston's death could be released today. In New York, Elizabeth Pran, Fox News.
Oh, what a shame. And of course, on the eve of the Grammys, all of this happened. The night of Clive Davis's party, and annually, Whitney is a major contributor to that party because Clive Davis was really her mentor. I mean, he produced most of her work. And so it had to be a sad night. That night was not canceled, nor was the Grammys, of course. But what they did do was honor Whitney, and they celebrated their fallen sister. But the night really did actually belong to Adele, I have to say. On a happier note, wow, Adele. And Perez Hilton predicted it. Oh, swept every major Grammy category. So happy for her, and she looked stunning. Absolutely gorgeous.
Well, Fox is Foxy too. Courtney Friel takes a look.
There is no way around this. We've had a death in our family.
Kicking off the show with a prayer for the late Whitney Houston, host LL Cool J set the tone for the 54th Grammy Awards, remembering the music icon while honoring this year's nominees and winners.
No surprise, rolling in the deep, Adele!
The night's big winner was no surprise. Adele rolled in the Grammys, taking home Best Song, Pop Solo, Record, and Album of the Year.
Wow, we did not expect this.
Winning Best Country Album, Lady Antebellum.
We take care of our own.
The night rocked with performances from The Boss, Paul McCartney, Foo Fighters, Rihanna, and Coldplay, including tributes to Glenn Campbell and the Beach Boys. Homages to two legendary singers who passed, Etta James and Whitney Houston, brought the audience to their feet. And the nearly 4-hour show concluded with an all-star jam session. In Hollywood, Courtney Friel, Fox News.
Crazy. Yeah, we were just talking about it. Actually, Ryan Seacrest had put on Facebook on Saturday, just found out the news here at Grammy rehearsal, so stunned, and we'll keep you posted. And then as the hours rolled along, they said Jennifer Hudson is in, she's flying in, she'll be singing for Whitney. So,
can you imagine the pressure? I mean, Whitney was huge, such a huge role model, and she's talked about that over and over in her life. And then to have to go on and just not even have a full day, really, to prepare and sing that and deal with the sadness, and oh my goodness, but she did a beautiful job.
She held it together. Really there were moments I thought she might break with the tears, but she took a deep breath and she sang her heart out, so kudos to her. Absolutely beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful.
All right, well, moving on to the weather now. We do have some changes moving in. The weather, unsettled weather, is just sticking around.